All right, welcome to quarter 2. Again, you will continue seeing my face on these videos since I'm the one creating the course. However, you do have a new teacher this semester. Her name is Miss G. Hopefully you've already watched the video where she introduced herself to you. Again, you're reaching out to her anytime you need help or whatever. You're just still seeing my face on these videos because I'm making them. Last quarter, we focused on solving equations, we focused on functions, we focused on a bunch of different introductory things, and one of the most important things from chapter 1, or from first quarter, that you need to take away is solving equations. I know that we have now done like 3 or 4 lessons with solving equations, so you're probably to the point of why are we still doing this? And that is because we want to make sure that you are a master of this before moving on to anything else, because again, solving equations is going to show up throughout this whole entire course, throughout Math 2, throughout Math 3, everything. So we want to make sure that you have a firm foundation. So I'm going to do a quick review video. Again, it still seemed like a couple people were struggling with solving equations. If you're not struggling, then I would still love it if you watch the video, so that way you can get some good information, good review from that. Please don't skip the video and move on. Make sure you watch it. It's only 4 practice problems, so it's nothing too big. Because we were also having a little bit of trouble of turning in notes recently, I'm going to ask you to show your ability to turn in notes by taking notes on these 4 problems, writing them all out on a piece of paper, and turning those notes in. Again, keep in mind, whenever we take notes when we're watching a video, we should be stopping the video and copying down the examples that they're showing, okay? Again, the reason for that is so that we have notes later on when we have to take a quiz or a test or anything like that, okay? So please make sure that for each of these, there's only 4 questions. I want to see all 4 questions written out on a piece of paper and then take a picture of that piece of paper and turn it in, okay? Not just the answers, not just the questions, all 4 complete work shown, okay? That's going to be the very first question on this assignment. Normally, the notes are a complete assignment in and of itself, but for today, since you are just doing a review video, you need to copy down all 4 sets of notes, or all 4 problems on a set of notes, take a picture of it, and turn it in as the very first question, okay? If you want to type it out, that's perfectly fine, but again, make sure that you show every step, not just the question and answer, okay? All right, here we go. So solving equations, the whole purpose of solving equations is so that we have x equals. So at the very end, we want x equals, and then we want our answer. So in order to do that, we need x, let's see if I can hold it like this, we need x all by itself. So currently x has a 3 next to it, and x has a -5 next to it. Well, the very first thing that we want to move is anything that doesn't have the x next to it. So right now we're going to take this -5 and we're going to move it to the other side to get rid of it. Anytime we move it from one side to the other, we have to change its sign. The only way to get rid of a -5 is to add a +5 to that. -5 plus +5 is 0. What we do to one side, we have to do to the other. So I have to add my 5 to this side. So now I'm going to bring down this 3. So I have 3x equals, and then 16 plus 5, which is 21. Now I have an equation that I need to get rid of one more number, this 3, because now I'm super close to getting x by itself. Whenever a 3 and an x are next to each other, that means multiplying. So the only way to get rid of that 3 is if we divide. 3 divided by 3 is 1, which is where we get our 1x. But what I do to one side, I have to do to the other. 21 divided by 3 is 7. Again, I can always check that by plugging the 7 back in, but we're not going to worry about that today, okay? All right, let's look at the second one. So again, I want my x by itself. So notice I'm circling or boxing my x. That just helps me say, like, that's by itself. A lot of times, also, some people get confused as to when to switch the signs. draw the line down your equal sign. If anything moves from one side to the other, it has to switch signs. So I want to move this 4 over here. So that way I only have negative 2x on this side. Well, the only way to get rid of a positive 4 is to subtract 4. 4 minus 4 is 0. So then I'm going to subtract 4 from this side. Now I have negative 6 minus 4, which is going to give me a negative 10. Don't be afraid to use your calculator for these negatives, so that way you don't make a simple mistake. Again, I want x all by itself, which means I have to get rid of this negative 2. Not just the positive 2, but negative 2. So again, it's directly next to x, which means I am going to divide. So when I divide this side, cancels out, and I end up with just this x. When I divide this side, negative 10 divided by a negative 2 becomes a positive 5. Okay? Again, take a second, pause the video, write it down, so that way you have all of that. So now we're going to move on to our third problem, which makes it a little bit more complicated. So we want to make sure that we know how to do every step. The two-step problems. So now we have x's on both sides, so we have multiple x's. So again, think about boxing, circling, whatever you want with my x's. Remember, you want to use the sign that's in front. Well, both of these are positive, so we're good. I'm going to draw my line down the middle so that way we can see the two sides. Anything that moves from one side to the other has to change signs. Okay? So I want these two x's together on one side. And then I want these two numbers together on the other side. So I'm going to leave this 4x here, and I'm going to take and I'm going to move this 2x to this side. Now again, this is a positive 2, which means the only way to get rid of it is to subtract 2. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and subtract 2 from this x since it's on this side. 2 minus 2 is 0, so I just have my negative 7 over here. And then I have my 4x minus 2x, which is going to be 2x so far on this side. I have this negative 3 up here. Again, I want it on the opposite side of x. So I'm going to take and I'm going to move the negative 3 on this side. Well, again, it's a negative, which means the only way to get rid of it would be to add. Negative 3 plus 3 is 0. So I'm going to add 3 on this side. Notice I'm adding it to the 7 because they're both whole numbers. So now I have negative 7 plus 3, which is a negative 4. Okay, and then again, my last and final step, anytime I have a number next to x, I'm going to divide to get rid of it. So then I end up with x equals, and then a negative 4 divided by 2, which is a negative 2. All right, last problem, and again, we're getting more complicated as we go each time. So our last problem is going to entail parentheses and multiple x's. So here's our last problem. Again, take a second, write it down. So we have parentheses first. We want to get rid of any parentheses first. The way we're going to do that is multiply. 3 times x, which is 3x, and 3 times negative 2, which is a negative 6. Then on this side, I have multiple x's. So I can just combine them and say, how many x's do I have on this side? Well, I have 1 here and 1 here, so I have 2 x's plus 5 on this side. Okay. Now we're going to do the same thing we did in the last problem. We want to get this x and this x on the same side. So I'm going to always move the smaller one so I don't have negatives. You can move either one, but in this case I'm going to subtract 2x. So 2x minus 2x is 0. And then 3x minus 2x is going to be just 1x. So then I'm going to rewrite the rest of my problem so that it's not as messy. So after I get the x's together, I have x minus 6. So my x is already by itself, so all I need to do is move my 6. It is being subtracted, so again I'm going to do the opposite, which is add. Negative 6 plus 6 is 0. 5 plus 6 is 11. So I end up with x equals 11. Again, hopefully this is, again, just a review for most of you. Most of you are picking it up very quickly, very fast. We want to make sure that everyone has a very firm foundation on this because, again, everything we do here on out is going to be solving equations. It's going to be solving equations with shapes, solving equations with graphs, solving equations all together, okay? All right, now proceed to do the assignment.